Hey guys, welcome to the very first episode of the Aspiring Polymath. I'm your host, Kennedy. Most likely, you already know who I am since this is the very first episode. My social media would be the primary means of advertising this podcast, and maybe you don't, and that's okay. What is the Aspiring Polymath, you might ask or think to yourself? I'll start from the beginning. For a very long time, I've had the idea of developing a means of putting out ideas out there or putting out information that the average person might not be necessarily aware of. My goal is to do some light research on these topics and present them in a podcast format, basically having a discussion about these topics. Hopefully, I learn and you guys learn a lot from it too. So, what I'm thinking is I would have two primary modes of disseminating this information. The first mode would be basically talking to you guys like I am now. And the other mode would be having guests on the show who I would interview for their own particular expertise or just talking about a particular topic that I think would be of interest to you guys. Also, I plan on getting input from viewers or listeners, in this case, I suppose, of the show who have any ideas for topics that they would like to hear about or ideas that they think would go over really well with the audience. In the beginning, things would be a little bit rocky. I've never done this before. I have worked on YouTube for a little bit before in the past, but I've never made a podcast. Audio is a lot more sensitive. I'm starting to learn. So if you guys would bear with me, that would be great. I'm hoping we'll all learn a lot from this, and I'll definitely learn and grow as we go, especially considering the material that I'm going to be looking at with you guys here. Now, what is a polymath? I'm not sure if everybody knows what that is, but a polymath is an individual who is involved in a number of fields. It could be academic fields, could be hobbies, or anything of the sort. Now, not just an individual that's involved in a lot of fields. A polymath is sort of a jack of all trades, but there is the famous saying that jack of all trades is a master of none. In this case, it's not really accurate. A polymath is an individual who is not only a jack of all trades, but is also very proficient at every one of the trades that they're involved in. Some famous polymaths you might know are Albert Einstein, Leonardo da Vinci, um, many others you might have heard of or not heard of. One of my favorite polymaths is actually an ancient Egyptian. His name is Imhotep, or his name was, I should say. He's certainly not alive anymore. If you look at my cover art for the podcast, you'll find a depiction of Imhotep there. A lot of people are not familiar with who he is. I'll be doing an episode on Imhotep's life, his works, what he was into, that kind of thing. I'm not even sure if one episode is sufficient to cover what this man got into back in the day. He was to say he was an expert in medicine would be an understatement. To be honest, he was a pioneer in medicine. I'll put it that way. He was also a pyramid builder. Which meant he was an engineer, an expert engineer, more than expert. He was a statesman. He was basically the equivalent of a prime minister in ancient Egypt called a vizier. He was involved in all sorts of things. He was so renowned in medicine that I think this was after he died. I'll go into this more in the episode. After he died, he was deified and was regarded as a god in ancient Egypt. I'm going to be looking into a lot more detail for his life when I do the actual episode for him, but pretty interesting man. These are the kinds of people that we talk about when we use the word polymath. There are a lot more contemporary examples of polymaths that I'll be getting into over the course of the show, but the show is not going to be relegated to just discussing polymaths. The main idea of the show is to get people to broaden their horizons, basically, and not just have their heads down in one particular topic or area of expertise, which they might be already familiar with. For the purposes of this podcast, I'll mostly be sticking to topics I'm already familiar with to begin with, such as IT, for instance, history, which is one of my hobbies, a little bit of finance. But over time, as I bring on other experts and other guests and start to accumulate information, we'll start to branch out into other areas, especially areas which members of the audience have an interest in. And I'll basically tailor my path using your suggestions. That's my initial idea. And hopefully, you guys will stick with me, work with me on this, and we can go on our way. This isn't something I'm doing just for the sake of doing it. I really hope that you guys can learn from this. I certainly hope to learn from this as well. That's one of the primary reasons why I wanted to do this. And I genuinely enjoy discussing these issues. I consider myself kind of a natural jack of all trades, and hopefully we can upgrade that to a polymathy. But we'll see how that goes. That's my end goal, and I am hoping a few of you would join me on that path as well. This first episode is not meant to be a full episode. It's just meant to introduce you to what I'm aiming to do with this. Also, full disclosure, it's supposed to help me practice as well because I've never actually uploaded a podcast episode before. This will be my first, so we'll see how that goes. Um, I'm hoping to get this out on Spotify, and I should be putting out episodes on YouTube as well. Going forward, we'll see about Apple, the Apple Store, whatever you guys call it. I don't. I use an Android, so don't hate me, but I don't know. I'll work on Apple as well. iTunes, yeah, iTunes. That's what I was thinking of. But is it still called iTunes? I'm not sure. But you get the gist of what I'm trying to say. Spotify first, Spotify and YouTube first, and then we'll go from there. Um, Before I close out here on this opening episode, I also want to talk about something else. I planned to put this episode out 2 weeks ago. I planned to record it 2 weeks ago, but I hadn't until now because right around when I was getting ready to record this episode, something happened. Something happened in my home country of Nigeria. There have been protests going on, which were sparked by the killing of a young man by a controversial police unit known as SARS, SARS, Special Anti-Robbery Squad, I think is what that stands for. And this isn't a new issue. This is an issue that's been going on for a long, long, long time, not just with this particular unit, but with police brutality in Nigeria as a whole. And not just Nigeria, Africa as a whole, in America too. But we'll stick to Nigeria for now. These protests they represented basically some of my proudest moments as a Nigerian, as a young Nigerian, because I have never seen members of my generation band together in such a unique way, come together and put these things together, provide funding, provide food, provide entertainment, provide logistics, everything. And it was mind blowing. It was mind blowing to see what we were capable of when we put differences aside and actually work together towards a goal. What we're capable of when everybody decides that they're tired of standing around, they're tired of dealing with what's been handed to them by the government. They're tired of being taken for granted. They're tired of not doing something. And more so, these protests were peaceful. These were not riots. These were not violent gatherings. These were very peaceful protests. The youth of the country and some older people, we have to give them credit for that too, coming together and saying enough is enough. We're not taking this anymore. And what was really interesting is the protests started to evolve. At first, it was an EndSARS protest. But as time went on, as the government showed more and more that they were not willing to listen to the wishes of these young Nigerians, they started to really take a peek behind the curtain at what the real problem was. And the real problem is bad governance. The real problem has always been bad governance. Over time, these protests turned into a protest for good governance, proper representation, which everybody deserves, especially in a democratic or at least supposedly democratic society. This shouldn't be something they have to protest for. This shouldn't be something we have to ask for. It should be expected of elected officials to represent their constituents as they swore to upon taking office. So this was a righteous request being made by these citizens. And unfortunately, it fell on deaf ears. Not only did it fall on deaf ears, these citizens who came together to request this of their elected government were attacked. There's no other way to put it. They were attacked, and nobody's taking responsibility for these attacks. But we all know at the end of the day who has the final say in on these matters. So somebody gave the order for them to be attacked, and yet nobody has been held accountable. There's no I don't want to say there's no investigation into how this happened, because that would be an insult to the people who died, who lost their lives, the people who were injured. That would be an insult, because we all know who's responsible for that attack on some level, at least. Whether it was a direct order or whether it was through negligence, we all know who was responsible for this, and nobody has been held accountable. So I'm saying a huge thank you. I'm giving appreciation to all the Nigerian youths who've been involved in the protests, whether in person on the ground or online. Not just the Nigerian youths, anybody at all who has had a hand in supporting this movement. This has been The past 2 weeks have been represented some of the proudest moments of my life as a Nigerian, not just as a young Nigerian, but as a Nigerian, period. Now, we haven't exactly achieved the results that we wanted yet, but it really goes to show that we can we can achieve great things when we actually come together and work together. We're capable of so much more than you would think just looking at the state of the country currently. We're capable of so much more. And that was a win, if nothing else. Being able to observe that and know, I mean, on some level, we've always suspected that if you give the youth a chance, we could do things like this. But it's very refreshing to see it in practice. And it was very refreshing to see us actually take action for once. And I think this is the start of something beautiful. I think the momentum is going to keep going, and we're going to develop a political movement behind this. Political movement to take the country back, not violently, not through violence, but through politics, through the systems that already exist. And we have to change those systems because the system is wrong. I don't want to say the system was broken, because that suggests that it was ever working in the first place, which it wasn't. But we have to take our country back, and it has to happen sooner rather than later. Because the longer we leave it, the worse. The worse. I don't even know how to put it, but the worse it's gonna get, and we can't allow that to happen. But I don't want to make this too long. I just wanted to say a big thank you to everybody involved in the EndSARS movement. I want to say a big thank you to the organizers, the early adopters. I don't remember all the names, but one of the more prominent ones that I've noticed is the Feminist Coalition. They've been very, very instrumental. I've been following their progress for the most part through Instagram and Twitter. And what I was mostly impressed by is how they handle donations. They were able to take in donations. They were able to account for every single naira of those donations, that what they were used for, everything. And even after their bank accounts were shut down, I think they were able to take in donations using cryptocurrency, which in of itself was impressive. Being able to educate the public on how to use cryptocurrency and how to send in donations and still manage all the logistics behind all of that. I want to say a big thank you to everyone once more, and let's keep it going. My biggest fear is this momentum will die down. Now, everybody has righteous rage right now, but my biggest fear is a month from now, life will go on. Everybody has bills to pay. Everybody has to go to work. Everybody has to, keep it moving. But I want us to keep this in the back of our minds always, the development of our country. This is something I've always thought about. It didn't just start for me 2 weeks ago. It didn't even start this year. It didn't start a year ago. I think a lot of us were forced to confront the state of things, partly because of lockdown and having to stay in, having more time to reflect, being more pensive. that kind of thing. But I think this is something we need to keep going. And I like what I've seen lately from my fellow countrymen. I think we need to keep it going. We need to work towards developing our country. We don't even have to wait till 2023. There are other ways we can come together to do this. We can continue to form constructive groups which can lead us towards bigger and bigger groups in the future, which can lead to political pressure in the future. There's all sorts of ways to do this. This isn't something one person will come up with. This is not something one person can do. This is something we have to come together to figure out ourselves. And I think we've already started to do that. We've already seen the genesis of what could become a much better Nigeria one day. I hope we'll stick with it. I hope you guys will tune in and see what else we have for you here. Initially, when I had this idea, I thought I would leave politics out of it, but maybe that was a little bit naive to think I could do that, and maybe I shouldn't leave politics out of it. Maybe politics is one of the things that I do have to talk about because it's part of our world. It shapes our world. It shapes everything else that I'll be discussing here, whether in from antiquity in history or in modern times. So I have revised that decision. I think I will be including politics in our discussions, and we'll see how that goes. A lot of what I'll be doing here is going to be based on feedback from you guys. So I will be setting up social media pages. I think I had mentioned that earlier. Twitter and Instagram, I think. If I think I need more than that, I'll add some more, but we'll see how that goes. So please, 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 please tune in. Please leave me comments. Please, converse with me. I'm always going to reply. Um, just let me know what you're thinking. That will give me really good feedback to know what to improve on, what you guys like, what you don't like, what you more importantly what you want to learn. Because I'm here to help both of us learn. I want to learn new things. You can tell me things that I don't know. I can tell you things that you don't know. We can both do our research. We can both talk about it. If I say something on the show you don't agree with, you can do your own research. We can make it a discussion. um I'm willing to have people on the show as guests. We can have conversations about this, and in the end hopefully we both learn something and we both go away wiser than when we came on. I think that's all I have for you today. Thanks for tuning in. um I'll see you guys next time. Well, I'm used to being on YouTube. I won't see you guys next time, but I look forward to you tuning on the show next time. Thanks, guys.